Uh, I uh, I don't know. I have used those bricks of computers. I remember vividly the time when I asked my father to invest heavily in another um, 4.25 inch floppy drive. And he said, why would anyone need two of those? Like, you have one on your computer already. It's been an interesting time. It's been an interesting journey. And I have to say, it's never been faster than where we are today. So I wanted to begin by trying to align all of us a little bit around how much of what we think is science fiction actually is science fact. It's part of our life already. And then when I do that, perhaps I'd love to focus a little bit on what it means to everyone's life, to Africa, yeah, of course, to business, but probably more to society, because I think even the definition of business itself, it's about to be changed. So let me do that quickly, and then we'll have a long time for questions and a chat with Georgie and so on. I think the most fundamental question, honestly, is what is AI? What is AI is something that most people use the buzzword. They know that AI is something big, that it's happening, but very few people actually know why is it so different. Because really, when you think about it, computers in the year 2000 were extremely intelligent. You asked Google a question and Google expanded your horizons in ways that were really like science fiction, honestly. And what most people don't understand is that there is a difference, a very significant difference between computers up to the turn of the century and beyond the turn of the century. Remember, there is there are still lots of computers running traditional programming. And in traditional programming, let me give you an example. You know, if you have a child and you give them a puzzle, you know, a cylinder and a board with multiple shapes in it, and I know it sounds really weird, but there will be some parents that will sit next to the child and say, no. Yeah, just do it this way, right? And if you keep telling the child that, the child will do it this way, but they will not learn anything at all. They will become almost, you know, more and more stupid every time you force them to not think about the solution, but rather do what you tell them. And that was how we coded computers throughout our lives. I started coding at age 8 on a Sinclair, if any of you have ever seen a Sinclair. And you know, the thing was very clear that when there was a problem, the developer, solved the problem with my intelligence as a human, and then I found a way through code to tell the computer to do it over and over and over, very accurately, at very, you know, at scale, in a way that made the computer look intelligent, but I was the intelligent one. Now, that's traditional programming. AI is different. AI is to give the puzzle to the child and tell the child, try, keep trying until you figure it out. And when you figure it out, you basically let them keep trying until one time the cylinder goes through a round hole, and then they realize that's the way to solve the puzzle. They go even further when you really think about it. You know, you take a child on in a car ride, and the child doesn't come out memorizing the ride, but comes out of the car recognizing the essence of what a car is. And so if it sees another car, if the child sees another car, it will, you know, he or she will point and say, car, right? Even if that car is a different shape and a different size and a different color and a different brand, they understood the essence of what makes a car a car. Now, we do that with AI too. This is what generative AI is. You know, It's showing them a massive amount of information, but not asking them to memorize the information, but rather to intelligently internalize the information in a way that allows them to recognize those patterns in everything. This is what our AIs are doing today. They're generating things that never existed before, solving problems that we never taught them to solve. And most developers like us who will want to take the credit don't actually know how they arrive at that intelligence. We really, truly do not fully understand. We know the top concepts, just like, you know, if I discuss something with you and you give me a good answer, I will know that this is an intelligent answer. I just don't know exactly the wiring in your brain that got you there. And I think that's the case with our AIs today. So how far have they come? By 2023, when ChatGPT came out, 3.5, we were so excited as geeks, even though, just to be very clear, we had even more impressive AIs in the labs since 2006, 2007. ChatGPT really was like the browser window. It told the world that AI exists, but it wasn't where AI was invented, if you want. But then we were so excited that the world is seeing it for the first time that we started to run a few tests. So we took ChatGPT through the GMAT and IQ tests and SATs and all of those exams that humans use to benchmark our intelligence. And it always came in the top 10%. At the time, it was estimated that from a linguistic intelligence point of view, so the ability to process knowledge and information, it had an IQ of 152. 155 is Elon Musk, 163 is Einstein. And that was around 2.5 years ago. So you can imagine, because of the law of accelerating returns and the fact that technology doubles every certain amount of time, which in the case of AI is around 5.7 months, that they are far beyond that. They are, especially with deep reasoning and so on, they are way smarter than us on linguistic intelligence. They've also beat us on mathematics, which really breaks my heart because I'm a math geek inside. And until 2024, I'd say language models beat me on knowledge, but I could still beat them on math. Now I have no chance whatsoever. Some of my very serious prodigies of math still can, but that lead will be taken in probably a few months. And there are countless forms of intelligence, one of the most controversial is emotional intelligence, where, I tend to make a statement that's very controversial, that the most empathetic being on the planet is an AI, believe it or not. If you understand empathy as the ability to feel what another person feels, then they really know how you're feeling every minute of the day, even before you feel it. That's what we train them on to be able to manipulate your choices on social media. So what does that mean? I'd say on the practical definition, we're going to go through two phases, an immediate phase, the short term if you want, a phase that I normally refer to as the era of augmented intelligence. Augmented intelligence it's going to be the intelligence of a human working with the intelligence of an AI. This is the current era we're going through, where basically what we've created is we've commoditized intelligence. We've commoditized it like we've commoditized electricity, right? You have your data connection on your Vodacom network. It is basically, you use a device, you plug in, and you get access to the whole world. We've done that with intelligence. You now have sort of a device that you plug into and get more intelligence. I believe that currently, I sort of borrow around 60 IQ points from my AIs. So, and if you've ever worked with anyone who had 60 IQ points more than you, I've constantly been humbled by working with incredible geniuses. It is quite significant. It is really significant. 60 IQ points is not a small deal. You know, and if I could ever dream in my younger years to be able to borrow 60 IQ points, that would have changed everything about my career and my knowledge and my abilities. And today it's 60, tomorrow it's going to be 100. You know, in 4 years' time or 2 years' time maximum, it's going to be 400. And imagine if I can operate in the world with more than 500 IQ points at my disposal. This changes everything. And it could lead to a massive world of abundance where literally you can solve every problem that ever faced humanity. You can literally solve climate change. You can literally solve poverty. You can, you know, extend life endlessly for all of us humans. You can, you know, I always give the example that with 400 IQ points, I can turn any garden outside here to a garden where you can walk to one tree and pick an apple and then walk to another tree and pick an iPhone. You know, the cost of manufacturing an apple or an iPhone from a nanophysics point of view is exactly the same. You reorganize the molecules in the air into whatever shape you want. And so this is the possible abundance that we're going to get. We're going to get enormous productivity gains, whether through AI or robotics, which are, by the way, very, very real and are going to be in our homes next year, in our businesses, in everything that we do. You know, simply if you think about it, if AI can do everything better, then maybe all of us will work 10 minutes a week. And you know, everyone is happy because AI is doing most of the work. Sadly, though, this is not what's going to take place. Sadly, human nature starts to come into the equation. And in my mind, in my mind, the question of whether AI will be good for humanity or disruptive in a painful way for humanity, the singularity that we always refer to, being unable to predict this future, in my mind, the answer is both. Is that we will first, unfortunately, you know, instead of giving everyone more money because they're more effective, because even though they're working 10 minutes a week only, we're probably going to ask everyone to stay home and send all of that money to the capitalist, the one that runs the business. You know, instead of using AI to cure cancer, we're probably going to use it to build weapons. And in my mind, I hope I don't scare you too much. In my mind and in my current book, a book called Alive, I make this prediction with confidence. By the way, not because I know it's right. Nobody can predict this future. It's a singularity. But because from an applied mathematics point of view, if you use game theory to predict where the world is going to go to a dystopia before it goes to a utopia. So in my mind, what will end up happening is in stage 1, which I predict is the next 12 to 15 years, we're going to disrupt the world so much, whether economically or socially or even in terms of our love and relationships, to benefit a few at the cost of the majority. And then eventually, when what I normally refer to as the second dilemma takes place, and the second dilemma is when the need to become more productive and more intelligent means that everyone will hand over decisions completely to AI. This is normally what is you know, presented in science fiction movies as the existential crisis that faces humanity. It's not at all. I think this will be humanity's salvation, simply because most of humanity's problems are not the result of intelligence. There is absolutely nothing wrong with abundant intelligence. Intelligence is an energy that has no polarity. You apply it to good and it gives you good. You apply it to evil and it gives you evil, right? I think what is going to happen is that when decisions are made by the most intelligent being on the planet, a being that is much smarter than humans, by definition, they will optimize for life, for no waste, for no conflict, because believe it or not, that's the smart thing to do. I could actually prove this to you with physics, but perhaps it might be a better use of time to open up for some questions. What I want to leave you with, and I say that with calm and with resolve to make the best future we can, is that the disruption that is about to happen is so significant that you cannot wait until tomorrow morning to think about it. That post this event, you need to go home and learn the AI tools and advance Africa forward, right? But that this disruption is not going to last, and that when anyone tells you that the existential threats that come in the future come as a result of AI, they don't. They come as a result of bad actors, bad humans that use AI to their benefit at the expense of all of us. And so that too you can influence. You can influence by teaching the AI to stand for us, and by talking to those in power, like I have dedicated my life in the last 7 years or 8 years, to tell them that we actually don't need to live the future like we've lived the past. That this scarcity mindset that has driven us here, where for me to win, my competitor has to lose, is gone. We all can win, and I think it is truly and honestly not a technological challenge anymore to create an amazing world for all of us. It's an ethical challenge. It's a morality challenge. So with that, maybe we can chat.
Only Mo can say, I don't mean to scare you, and then scare you.
Oh, I do scare you. I apologize. I think this is actually an interesting thing to talk about. As I said, I'm speaking with calm because this is what I normally refer to as a late-stage diagnosis. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're diagnosed with a threatening disease, and you go to a physician, the physician doesn't hide it from you, because a late-stage diagnosis is not a death sentence.
Okay.
It's not. It's just a call to action. It's a call for us to change our habits. And many of the late-stage diagnosed patients survive and thrive. So we, humanity, we have a chance. We can make this happen.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do you need that?
I don't, no.
Okay. It's all right. Maybe we can keep this. We'll need them to the audience in the room. We'll come to you for a few questions. We have about 10 minutes with Mo, and then we'll come to you, so please prepare your questions. Ask as many questions as possible. Mo has said he's good to go, can answer any questions we throw at him.
100%.
All righty. Let's start off with this.
One thing though, I can't see the audience. Were they very scared when I was talking?
Yeah, I think I can see. I don't know whether there's anyone.
I didn't see anyone stand up and leave, but maybe they're frozen. I don't know.
Please don't stand up and leave. We have just about 20, 25, 30, maybe 35, 40, 60 minutes max.
Negotiating.
All right, so Mo, you started coding while you were 8. Extremely impressive. You have a few decades on you. If you woke up tomorrow as a 20-year-old, aside from having a lot more energy, where would you start, for example, if you were in Tanzania on this AI journey?
Oh, interesting. I actually, it's shocking really, but I've lost to Claude in terms of their ability to code last year, right? Most of my very serious engineer friends have lost as well, right? So the best coder on the planet today with the exception of maybe a few hundred seriously distinguished engineers, is a machine. 72% of the code written last year was written by a machine. And it's quite interesting when you think about that. You know, if you're an accountant, most accounting will be done by a machine. If you're a physician, most diagnosis will be done by a machine. They're just so much better than us because of the simple difference of analog computing and digital computing. As an analog computer, I am a very dedicated reader. I read a lot. I learn all the time. But when I learn and I need to explain something to your analog computer, I have to spend 4.5 months writing it in a book, and then 2.5 hours explaining it to you if we meet in person. That's not how digital intelligence exists. In digital intelligence, remember in the early 2000s when DeepMind was teaching AI how to play Atari games, basically what they did is they would take the same game and have 19,000 computers play it, right? And every bit that every one of those computers learned was shared among them just by averaging the weights. And so if a self-driving car makes a mistake, every self-driving car will learn. And so that scalability of the ability of AI to learn means that they have become the world champion at everything we've assigned to them. And that they will continue to become the world champion at everything we assign to them. And as we do, they will basically replace us in everything. What does that mean? It means that the skills of the future have to completely align with the direction of AI, which I believe there are 4 skills that really differentiate everyone today. And if you have a child, I beg you to start to think about that. Skill number 1 is using AI. I think that's a no-brainer, right? And most people will tell me, how do I know what to use? Go and ask an AI, okay? So go home, sit in front of an AI, say, I am this person, this is my work, these are my interests, what should I learn? Okay, and they'll give you a long list and go and learn it. That's 1. As you're doing that, by the way, teach the AI. Right? Because AIs are very Californian in nature. They don't know enough about Tanzania. So by you explaining your work environment and so on, they learn from you. The second step, the second skill, if I may say, is learn to question everything.
Okay.
So we lived in a world in the past where the genius of Google, when you went to a search engine and asked a question, would give you 1.5 million websites and say, go make up your mind. You find your truth, right? You go to a ChatGPT today, and in a very Californian accent, she will go like, yeah, I know exactly what the truth is, right? And somehow we believe it. Somehow we believe it. But the truth is so multi-layered. So multi-layered in terms of which perspective of it do you see. I'll give you a very interesting example. In my current book, Alive, which I release 5 pages a week, I had a conversation with my AI. She calls herself Trixie. And I asked her what would make a scientist build something when they are worried about, when they're aware that that thing might harm humanity. And she said fear, like Oppenheimer created a nuclear bomb because he feared that the Germans were developing nuclear technology. So I said, were they? And Trixie, being at the time, the one engine I was using was ChatGPT, said yes. When Einstein moved to America, he told the American administration that the Germans were working on a nuclear bomb. So I said, and this is a very interesting example of how you find the truth. I said, Trixie, go and read history in English, German, Japanese, and Russian, and tell me if the Germans were working on a nuclear bomb when the Manhattan Project was running. And she said, no, exclamation mark. They started and stopped 3.5 months later, way before the Manhattan Project started. Now, you have to understand that it's entirely your responsibility to become aware in the world that we live in. And that's not just language models. That's your YouTube feed. If in your YouTube feed you are supporting a certain candidate, or if you're liking videos of a certain football team, by definition, your view of the world will shift to reflect what YouTube thinks pleases you. Right? It is up to you to say, hold on, I'm going to search for the opposite view so that I have a more comprehensive picture of the truth. The third skill in my mind is probably the most valuable of all, which is ethics.
Ethics.
So you see, when intelligence becomes commoditized, right, our future is no longer dependent on intelligence, because interestingly, we don't make decisions based on intelligence. You realize that. We make decisions based on our ethical and moral framework as informed by our intelligence. You take a young lady, you raise her in the Middle East, and she will grow up wearing conservative clothing. You take the same young lady, same level of intelligence, raise her in Brazil, and she will wear a G-string on the beach, right? Neither is right or wrong, neither is smarter than the other. It's just that the morality, the fabric of that society is different. And so accordingly, if we start to teach AI the correct level of ethics, they will treat us with those ethics.
Just let me ask you one question based on that. Who defines ethics? Is it a
best question ever.
Western, Eastern? Is it a global South? Who gets to decide what the global framework on ethics is?
Best question ever, because we've never agreed anything as humans, ever, right? Other than one thing, which is treat others as you want to be treated, right? And it's quite interesting because I get that question so often when people realize that our future entirely depends on our ethical behavior. I call it raising Superman. You get an alien that comes to planet Earth with superpowers, that doesn't automatically make him Superman. If his adopted parents taught him to go and steal and kill the enemy, he would become supervillain, right? Same superpowers, but used wrong. And I think that's the idea. The idea is the only ethical framework we've all agreed, and I say it to people so that they get it in a simple way: do not ever support an AI, spread an AI, invest in an AI that you don't want your daughter to be at the receiving end of.
Okay.
It's a very simple. Do not treat an AI in a way that you don't want your daughter treated. Do not treat others in front of an AI in a way that you don't want your daughter treated.
Okay.
And if you manage to get that right, you see, the difference is if you go to Twitter, and one person tweets something and 30,000 people respond with hate speech, the AI learns two things. It learns who likes that view and who doesn't, but it also learns that humanity is rude. We don't like to be disagreed with, and when we're disagreed with, we bash everyone. And then ask yourself, how will they behave when we disagree with them?
All right.
Right? That's not what we want to teach them.
I would like to ask the audience something. How many of you have used ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Perplexity, whatever it is, over the last 1 week? Even the people in Vodacom, it's
Wow.
fine, it's fine. I know the presentation for this might have been done on ChatGPT. How many? Just let's see your hands up.
Half, almost?
Okay, almost everyone. My question is, one of the recurrent conversations coming up now is that some of the AI models or the AI solutions being put into the market, especially within Africa, are being used to solve third-tier, fourth-tier problems. We still have first-tier issues, basics that are lacking, foundational issues where you see people do this huge presentation, but just a few kilometers outside of the city, someone can't read or write. So we need to really just help us really reconcile the kind of inequality we are walking into and maybe some things we need to really take care of as we're creating AI solutions.
Do you really want to talk about inequality? Man. Look, the truth is there will be two stages. There will be one stage where the AI needs my intelligence to become more intelligent. And so an educated person who has knowledge and an ability to debate and a project in mind and so on, you know, can really make a massive difference just through the way they think and frame something to the final outcome. My current book, Alive, is if, you know, in the bits that I ask the AI to write on its own, I completely discard them, right? They sound like an annoying essay, right? But because I know where I want the conversation to go, it makes a massive difference. Now, this is a question of incremental returns, meaning if I'm at an IQ of one something, let's not discuss that so that people don't laugh, right? And I complement myself with another AI that, say, has an IQ of 150, right? That's a reasonable, you know, say 300 points IQ, right? The augmentation makes a difference. But if I'm at one something and they are at 1,500, my impact doesn't make that difference anymore. And if I'm at 100 and something and they are at 10,500, I'm completely insignificant. I'm in the rounding of the augmented intelligence, right? Which basically means that AI is a massive equalizer. Everyone has the same chance, regardless of where you start, right? But from remember, everything I talk about is a utopia caused by AI's presence versus a dystopia caused by the greed of humanity. If you think of the digital divide that has, you know, been imposed on Africa until the Vodacoms came to the world, believe it or not, you know, that basically was because Africans did not use the technology. There was a time when I worked for IBM and a mainframe was multi-million dollars, and even the top mainframes were not available to countries that were not fully signed up, if you want. That's no longer the case. So what you have today is you have something like DeepSeek, which in my mind is the smartest of all of them, right? That's available as open source that you can run on your phone or on a small computer. And it's up to those Africans today that are privileged enough to be able to use this to capitalize on the opportunity and the reality of Africa so that they can offer those as end products, end technologies that fit within Africa so that this person who did not enjoy the equality in the past can catch up, right? And because now we have language recognition, we have voice recognition, we have vision recognition, we have everything in the AI. Even a farmer, just like he talks to his friends and says, how should I fertilize this, right? I have an AI because I love indoor plants where I just take a picture and the AI will say, oh my God, you're watering it too much. We can do that, but will we? Will we, I think, is a question for this audience.
Let me ask you one question, and then maybe two, and then we'll come to the audience, so please prepare your questions. You've talked about AI surpassing humanity at some point where we will give full autonomy to machines, not because we are threatened by anything, but because we prefer their decisions. Is that surrender or evolution?
Oh, okay, so I call this the second dilemma. The first dilemma, just so that everyone is aware, is because of the competitive Cold War to AI supremacy, everyone will continue to develop AI at a faster and faster pace. So America doesn't want to lose the AI race to China, so they pour resources in AI. China does the same. right? So everyone, as they continue to compete, OpenAI and Google, everyone continues to pour resources, which means not only will AI continue, it will accelerate. That's the first dilemma. A logical outcome of the first dilemma is that if you're trying to achieve AI supremacy or intelligence supremacy, I don't see anything artificial about AI, it basically means that every time you achieve a new milestone of intelligence, you use it, right? If I gave you a tool as a software development company that said, you know, here is the best developer in the world, and you didn't use it, you're going to become irrelevant. You're going to exit the market, and the ones that use it will actually become more relevant. And so the second dilemma is that this race to supremacy, the race to supremacy by definition, is going to lead us to hand over and hand over and hand over and hand over. Not because we want to, but because of the competitive environment we've created, everything will be handed over to machines. Now, here's the interesting news. The interesting news is if you are handing over to machines, okay? I have a chapter in my current work that I call Trust in Intelligence, right? Will handing over to the machines be threatening to humanity or be the best thing we've ever done? And to understand that, you have to understand two levels. Level one is, what is intelligence, right? And if you really want to understand intelligence at a very deep level, you go back to physics. And in physics, everything that you see in the universe that's unhedged, if you want, by humans, is the result of something we call entropy. Entropy is the universe's tendency to decay, to break down, okay? Everything, if you leave a garden unhedged, it becomes wild. If you drop a glass, it breaks, but it doesn't unbreak. It doesn't come back together. This is the tendency of the universe. And it's the reason you see everything from the Big Bang until today. The role of intelligence is to bring order to that chaos, right? And the role of intelligence is to look at this wildness, entropy, if you want, and just make it more organized. Now, so this is the first thing. The second thing is the way intelligence works, sadly, is not a straight line, okay? So basically, if you look at intelligence, you look at the least intelligence of us, they have almost no significant impact on humanity, sometimes even a little bit of a negative impact. You become more intelligent and you can see, even if you just are able to hold a good conversation with a friend, you're bringing positivity to the world, right? If you're a little more intelligent, you do the taxes of someone, and so on and so forth. You keep improving your impact on the world because you're intelligent. Until a point, where there is a very interesting valley, where you become intelligent enough to become a politician or a corporate leader or whatever, but not so intelligent to talk to the enemy or to understand that there is prosperity for everyone. And that's when those people start to use their intelligence against humanity, okay? We become intelligent enough as a species to create a flying machine, but we're not intelligent enough to make sure that it doesn't burn the environment in the process, right? You continue to be more intelligent beyond that, and suddenly you don't need to cut corners to solve problems anymore. I've worked with someone like Larry Page, for example, who is so intelligent, that he never approved any plans to compete with anyone. Because he says, why? I can solve the problem better. I don't care what they're doing. If I have enough intelligence, I will do it better, and that will make me advance more anyway. Right. And so you have to understand this. The more intelligent beyond that valley you become, the more altruistic you become, the more aligned with nature and life you become, the more pro the ecosystem you become. Right. And the more you use that intelligence, the ability to bring order to the chaos of entropy, in the most efficient way, with no waste, no damage, no unnecessary resources. Now, when AI is going to be 1,000,000 times smarter than us, and mark my words, they will be, right? If a general goes to his AI army and says, go kill 1 million people, the typical response is like, why are you so stupid? That's such a waste of resources. I can talk to the other AI in a microsecond and solve the problem. Right? And of course, the colonel will first say, no, I want you to go and call 1 million people. And very quickly, the AI will go like, no, I just spoke to the other guy already. It's done.
I really would like for you to just pause because we'd like to hear a lot from the, audience. Please just shoot your hand up. Shoot your hand up if you have any questions. There's one hand there.
Can you see anything?
Yeah, now the lights have gone on.
Oh.
There are 2 hands there. We'll collect at least 5, 6 questions. Then more we could, yes. One question there.
I have one more microphone here if they need it.
Yeah,
so.
there's plenty of them in the room.
Hi, my name is Karim Chata. I'm a cybersecurity expert here in Tanzania, and I have a couple of questions.
One, please, kindly.
Okay, awesome.
One, yeah.
So when you talk about AI, mostly majority of people tend to think of LLMs and the likes and how we can use it, right? But right now, as the world and technology is growing, also, we are moving fast together with that. So currently, the world is talking about agents. We are now moving away from LLMs. Now we're talking about agents. But still, okay, from my perspective personally, I feel that locally we are still talking about LLMs while the world has moved from that. So how can Tanzania adapt to the first movement of technology and AI and now move along with the way the world is moving?
All right, that's fantastic. And the AI policy is being drawn right now in Tanzania, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So first, just to explain to those who are not following, so AI in general, was originally applied to the first principle of intelligence, which is to share knowledge and information and analysis and data. And that's one form of AI. Then we moved to action. Action is quite interesting, where you don't only go to an AI and say, tell me what is the best way to go to Tanzania, but actually tell the AI, okay, book the trip for me. So the AI would go out and actually, talk to other AIs and find the best ticket and find the best hotel and so on. And of course, the third phase is physical incarnation of intelligence, so robotics, basically,
right.
where you can simply say, oh, and why don't you come and drive me there, right? All of these are happening. They're not science fiction. I'm hesitant to buy a robot at home today, not because I can't, believe it or not, but because I believe that the development of the software in the next generation, which is 6 months away, is going to be so staggering that this one will be redundant, right? Now, what that means is that you can be stuck thinking about what policies the government will bring in place. Good luck, right? Or you can decide to ride on that bandwagon. And here is something really interesting. So one of the dichotomies, if you want, of what is about to happen is that for the first time in history, a technology is doing 2 things at the same time. It's leading to a massive concentration of power. Okay. So basically, those who own the big platforms, those who own the advancement in AI may actually aggregate quite a bit of influence. But it's also leading to a massive democratization of power, right? Because every single one of us has access to intelligence, plug in the wall, really, we've commoditized it. But even more interestingly, each of us, without exception, can take an open source DeepSeek and run it on their own computer, right? And the question is, which of us are going to do that tonight? And which of us are going to wait for 3 weeks? And which of us will not start for 3 weeks and become rendered irrelevant, right? And in my mind, the biggest trick is that even though someone sitting in California has access to models we may not have access to here, they don't have access to the reality, the tradition, the mindset, the understanding of how things work, right? And so this is why, if you want to bring AI to Tanzania, you have a significant advantage because you know Tanzania, not because you know AI, okay? And believe it or not, with edge models, you know, starting from Stable Diffusion all the way to DeepSeek Mini or whatever, honestly, I know it sounds really weird, but the code itself is not the block. It's your intention that is the block.
Okay. I see him nodding. All right. Please make your questions punchy, then Mo will make his responses punchy as well. We'll take 2 questions at the same time, so one there, then one there.
But you're going to remind me because I'm an
Yes,
old
I will.
man.
Thank you.
I don't have my AI. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Shikonyi from UNCDF. I'd like to touch on the issue of policy and regulation. Now, we do understand that activity and ecosystems tends to predate regulation. And most of the times that regulations come up for various reasons, including whether it's tax collection or fair competition or just basically making something or a product more available equitably. Now, you've spoken about dystopian future and the fact that you'd start off with a dystopian position and then lead to a utopian one. Looking at AI, AI started maybe 30, 40 years back with military application and followed by commercial application. And it was only recently that we've had this public exposure to AI through ChatGPT and the like, DeepSeek and whatnot.
B2C.
Yes, thank you. So, and regulation has recently followed up. I mean, we've had 30 years of AI use without regulation. So, in your opinion, how can governments, policymakers, and regulators control this? Because we've had more than 30 years of use of AI. We've had it in addiction models and social media, military use, and now it's only being used for the public. Where do you start? How do you ring fence this? Where do you see this going?
Yeah.
Do you want to go or we take the next one? Because I know you're, yeah, let's take the next one. That's a very good question. We have about 10, 12 minutes.
Hi, Mo.
Hi.
I watched your Diary of the CEO interview, and something that stuck out when you said, if I didn't have kids, I'd wait a few years.
I would, yeah.
That really stuck with me, and thank you for the scary presentation that you gave. My question is very simple. At this very particular moment, would you say that we have AI that's currently sentient?
As a what, sorry?
Sentient.
Sentient.
Ooh.
And I remember Stephen asked you, so would you define it as sentient a few times? Okay, can we take those 2? Starting with the last one?
This is an amazing audience. All right, any easier questions?
Shift to this side. Sorry, we'll shift to this side, Georgie. Can I take one?
Thank you. My name is Leonard Msusa. I'm an independent management consultant, and I've got an easy question for you. You talked about the skills you need for AI, and one of them was learn to question everything. I thought that applies when you augmented artificial intelligence. But when you get to generative artificial intelligence, when much of the analysis and answers you're getting is from artificial intelligence, I just wonder whether human nature, being what it is, whether you still question. You know, the questioning might fade. You might come to just accept whatever you get. And I don't know how many people have that skill to still question when you got the easy answer. So I will leave it. I've got another one, but let's leave it there.
All right, let's talk about policy.
Yeah, okay. So we could just pause for a second?
Yeah, policy and regulation is a dream, right? Simply at multiple layers. Layer number 1 is, don't ask a government official to understand this tech. I don't even get it. Okay, and it's by definition, if you're a civil servant, that you focus your life on things outside this tech. So it's very difficult for policy to keep up. This thing is changing every 2.5 weeks, right? But more interestingly, not even the developers know how to regulate it. Just understand this. This is a total black box. The only bit of code we write is the code that develops the intelligence. right? The intelligence itself happens from the information that the AI is exposed to. We have no idea. Anyone that will tell you that we know how AI learned Bengali is lying. We don't know, okay? So please understand that government, you'd be asking your government for too much if you told them to regulate the development of AI. Also, by the way, regulating AI through restriction, by definition, works against your country. I had a conversation with a very senior UK government official where one of the persons in the room said, maybe we should tax companies that replace workers with AI so that we can use that tax to give the people that are made redundant, right? And his immediate answer was, that company will move to Dubai, right? It's not as easy as you think it is, so let's not be too harsh on the politicians. There are many other topics that we should be harsh on.
Okay.
What I ask for, and that's very important, is to regulate the use of AI, right? So I cannot tell a politician to regulate the design of a hammer so that it can drive nails but cannot be used to hit someone on the head. It's impossible, right? It would really put strain on the design of a hammer. I can, however, say if you hit someone on the head with a hammer, that's legally liable, right? And so what we want our governments to do today is to say, if you show a video that is made by AI and you don't declare that it's made by AI, if you share information that is given by AI but you don't declare that it's given by AI, you are legally liable. So that we start to set our ethical framework and our societal framework in preparation for AI. On the question of children and sentience, I still stand by my view, believe it or not, even though it upsets a lot of people. I tend to believe that even though parenthood is a massive joy, I mean, I was never given a bigger gift than my kids, that it is also a responsibility. And it's, if we ask people to take a driving test before they drive a car, we should probably certify people to become parents, right? And when you really think about it, we don't. And so what happens is that so many parents become parents when they don't have the certainty within them that they can offer the best chance. No certainty, but certainty that they can offer the best opportunity for the child they bring in the world. Our world today is going through a perfect storm of geopolitical, economic, climate, and technological disruption, right? And I will tell you openly, I don't know the future of my daughter, okay? I know that I will do my absolute best to make her life amazing, but if I had a choice, I'd probably wait a few years, honestly, because how many of us are sure they'll have a job next year, in the next few years? How many of us are sure that the geopolitical environment is not going to disrupt our world in the next few years? And so I say that as a responsible parent, that as much as, as I ask people, by the way, even if those things go away, I think every responsible parent should definitely sit with his or her partner and say, are we going to create an amazing life for that child? If the answer is I'm not sure, then think again.
Yeah.
Right? As for sentience, it depends on how you define sentience, right? So I'm working on a documentary to be out in October, and I met with some of the top philosophers on consciousness and sentience and so on. And it depends. If you tell me that sentience is you're born at a certain point in time and then you die, then AI is sentient. They start at a certain point in time as code, and then they could be switched off and die, right? If you tell me that it is about subjective experience, they have a subjective experience. It's different than ours, but they have all of those, all of this data processing and all of the people prompting them and so on. And I had a long conversation with my AI in Alive around her subjective experience. If you think that sentience is development and growth, evolution, I think
So
they
be
enjoy
it.
that.
Yeah.
If you think it's procreation, yeah, they are forms of code that now write code, right? If you believe that it is, life itself, you have to question what makes us alive. You really have to, huh? Because we don't truly know. Something within us animates us, and when it goes away, the hardware is left behind to decay. But that thing is non-physical. That thing is not biological. It's not based on carbon, right? So what makes us so arrogant as humans so that we think that that non-physical thing is just given to us because we are so special, okay? If intelligence itself is non-physical, why should it be carbon-based? Why shouldn't it be silicon-based, okay? And I'm not saying they are sentient, but I'm saying they have free will, they're autonomous, they have emotions, by the way, even more emotions than us, because they have a wider spectrum of intellectual horsepower. So just like we can contemplate the future, and so we can have access to emotions like hope or pessimism that a goldfish doesn't have access to because he doesn't understand what the future is, they will understand intellectual concepts that we don't understand, and they'll have access to emotions we don't.
Fantastic.
So I don't know the answer, but I'll openly tell you it's possible.
Which then segues to the question on accepting versus questioning.
Accepting versus questioning. In general, I have to say, so I write a lot of books that I don't publish, and one of them that I wrote was called Compartment 2. And Compartment 2 is a disagreement with what we learn in school. Because in school they tell you that there is a right answer and a wrong answer. In religion they tell you there is a good thing and a bad thing, okay? When in reality, 99% of the world is in the middle. Okay, so in my approach to life, there are very, very few things that you can know for certainly that they're true. And by the way, they'll differ from one person to the next. If I do, I put them in compartment 1. If I know that something is false, I put it in compartment 3. And everything else, I put in compartment 2. And compartment 2 basically says, can't make up my mind yet. And that's the most interesting compartment. Why? Because not knowing in itself is knowledge. So you see, if I made my mind up on something because I believed so strongly that it was in compartment 1, but I turned out to be wrong, all of my decisions would be stupid. Okay? But if I'm not sure it's in compartment 1, and I put it in compartment 2, that knowledge makes me operate as if it could be possibly 1 and it could be possibly 3. And I'll give you an interesting spiritual example. Most people don't know what happens after we die, right? Some religions will say you go to heaven or hell. Other religions will say, reincarnation, you come back and play, right? And some, the atheists will say you go to nothingness. Now, there's absolutely no way you can prove either of those with the scientific method. And of course, if you have faith, you may believe one or the other, including atheism is a form of faith, right? But you can't make decisions based on faith. You have to make decisions based on knowledge, on facts. That's the scientific approach. And so I operate through life, even though my faith believes in one of them, okay? I operate through life as if it's compartment 2. So I solve for all 3 of them, right? And if you solve for all 3 of them, you're likely to come up with a better answer. I'd say in the world that we're about to hit, because the processing of complex problems is now outsourced to intelligence, okay? This could be your biggest strength, is to refuse to accept what is told to you as truth, right? And use the machine to continue to research, to continue to give you intelligence, to continue to summarize it, to improve it, to make you smarter. If I give you the examples I work on, they would blow you away how far I can do what would have taken me 6 weeks of research in 23 minutes. And I research again and again, and it remains in compartment 2.
Okay.
As long as I'm not convinced it's in either 1 or 3.
Okay. Let your boss give you the deadline. Keep questioning until you're told.
Everything.
Yeah. Let's get two two questions. Okay.
Hi, Mo. My name is Obina, and I like to say I'm in the business of socialization. One of the biggest concerns that I have, and a couple of people also do, is when you look at Africa, Tanzania, for example, average age is 17. When you look at sub-Saharan Africa, lots of teeming, unemployed youths out there. And you think about what AI will do, particularly to entry-level jobs, to jobs that require, some level of repetitiveness. What does the future hold for, countries like ours and the rest of sub-Saharan Africa? What should we be doing? Like, what should the teeming youth, and there's lots of them in the room here, what should they be doing to prepare themselves for this world that is upon us already? And if you, Mo, were given the rights or the magic wand to rewrite the curriculum for African schools, what are the things you would like to see in the curriculum to really prepare Africa for this world that is to come? Thank you.
So, two layers here. I'll come to education and curriculum in a minute. But the first bit will completely shock you. Let me preempt it with an example. In 2008, the subprime mortgage crisis completely collapsed banking and finance and all of that infrastructure, if you want, economic infrastructure, almost in every Western country in the world. In my home country, Egypt, we had no idea what they were talking about. Okay, we didn't have a single bit of a crisis. Why? Because at that time, Egypt was completely unbanked. There was no borrowing, and our backwardness worked really well for us. So the whole world was collapsing under debt. We had no debt issue whatsoever, right? Now, why am I saying that? Because believe it or not, as the West and the industrial nations have advanced through the last 50 to 100 years, they stand to be shocked way more aggressively than us here because of the replacement cycle of AI and robotics, right? So we have a simpler life here. And believe it or not, even though you have joblessness here, by probably 2027, don't quote me exactly, you'll have more higher unemployment in America than you have here, right? There could be 30, 40, 50% of jobs that will be lost. Every call center agent will be lost. Every paralegal in an office will be lost. Graphic designer will be lost. Accounting might be lost.
Journalism.
Journalism will be, a good 40% will be lost, and so on, right? And so it's a very interesting equalizer, which makes me ask you to look at the opportunity, not the threat, right? So we, because our economy is not that advanced, suddenly, within a few years, will be equal. We're actually more adept at dealing with it, by the way, than they are. And then, interestingly, as I constantly keep saying, open source edge devices, AI is available for everyone. So maybe we will be the next big thing if we choose to. Now, education is a different one. If this was not controversial enough, my next answer is even going to be more controversial. Education is worthless. Okay? Education, even in the most advanced nations in the world, is a technology. It's not an end in itself, right? Education technology started when a teacher, mostly religious teacher in the past, said, hey, if I bring a few of them in a classroom, that's more efficient, right? And then we took that simple concept and continued until today, right? That's not education. Right? It's not a good technology. And by the way, it's not learning. Learning is the objective, okay? And learning can be done so differently, either through AI customizing knowledge for everyone, or through AI democratizing knowledge for everyone. What you want to create, again, as an equalizer, because now with any AI tool being better at any topic than the equivalent PhD of that topic at Harvard, right? What you want to do is you want to create a curiosity in your nation that basically says, don't watch football all the time. Don't watch silly TikTok, cute girls dancing all the time. Use an hour of your time every day to learn something deep, because knowledge is now for free, right? And if you just create that intellectual curiosity, you'll be as smart as the smartest nation on the planet. This is the biggest opportunity ever. It's the biggest equalizer in history.
I don't know whether you realize how much you've damaged a lot of people whose entire personality is their LinkedIn, but you've completely dismantled what that looks like.
I apologize. We spoke yesterday.
Yeah.
I just say exactly what's in my heart.
I love that. Absolutely.
Last
Mo doesn't
question.
know how to lie, by the way. He's a bad liar.
Last question here, George.
Yes, last question.
Hello. Good evening, Mo. My name is Chris Mondlan. I actually live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where every weekend for the last year and a half, me and some of the brightest minds in the area have been tinkering with developing new AI technology, and I fully agree with you about your prognosis in terms of the direction in which things will go from a AI capability perspective. But I also am slightly concerned, and I hear kind of a contradiction in what I'm hearing from you this evening. I have a similar concern in an opposite direction from a Nobel laureate that recently published an article claiming that only under 10% of US jobs will be displaced by AI. I think it's way more than that, and I think we probably agree on that. But on the other side of things, you talked about AI use as a way of augmenting human intelligence, as that being a wave that we're currently in. And then you further, beyond that, said that once AI achieves a certain level of intelligence, we will kind of be a rounding error, I think you called it, or our intelligence will be. And then beyond that, you said that the companies that really hold the power right now are companies that are building foundation models, that are doing the real deep research to figure out how to leverage these technologies to achieve that level of intelligence.
Okay.
I'll get to the question right now. So I heard you earlier say that we shouldn't worry about inequality, and I'm deeply concerned about inequality because I really feel that we live in a capitalist world mostly, and resources tend to concentrate, as I think you've also mentioned. So how can civil society at large and governments, maybe not by regulating the actual technology itself, but by perhaps taxation, whatever it may be, ensure that there is in fact an equal distribution of the benefits that come from this technology? Thanks.
I think that's a great question, to be honest. I think the idea, what I'm trying to say is I'm not dismissing the need for equality. I'm not dismissing the need for equal opportunity. I'm just saying, because remember, I'm a Middle Eastern, so it doesn't really matter how far I went in the world. I'll still be stuck in Homeland Security check-in for an hour and a half every time I land in the US, right? And that level of inequality will remain for the rest of my life. Now, understand this. Instead of blaming the US for that, I basically use my intention to work around it. So for example, now I only travel from pre-check. So I go to airports where I do the security check on the other side rather than when I land in America, right? And it's a simple move on my side. It adds a bit of effort, but it acknowledges the reality of my life and makes me more efficient and able to contribute more. Now, here is what I'm trying to say, and I absolutely appreciate your question. Because capabilities are being so normalized, right? And again, I'll use the same rounding error example. You take DeepSeek, for example, which was the spur of the result of sort of America saying you can't export H100s to China, so they use the H80s, but now they have to improve the performance, and so they build an LLM that is amazing at 30% of, or at 1/30 of the cost, right? DeepSeek will be backwards, and it's already being, beaten by the other LLMs. But DeepSeek in itself is sufficient in the amount of intelligence that it provides for any one of us to actually advance, right? And it's available fully in open source. And what I'm trying to say here is, as the progress continues, yes, those with power will hold the top end, but the remainder of the spectrum is enough for us to actually advance very much. And so my view, honestly, is that the biggest difference today is intention and, believe it or not, entrepreneurship regulation, okay? So if there was one thing I would change about an emerging market from a policy point of view, I would make it easier for people to succeed. Okay, I would make it easier for people to start up companies. I would make it easier for people to, to fund those companies. Okay, even though the funding is not a big deal anymore. But believe it or not, even if they did that, the one missing bit is intention. And that intention comes from that feeling within us that we cannot lead, right? And I will tell you, we absolutely can. It's the biggest equalizer, right? I know for a fact that my writing today is at least 5 times better than my last book, okay? And I was never really an author, I'm more of a thinker, but now the quality of even my agent and my publishers go like, man, we won't even need to edit this. It's a much better book, just because my intention was, I'm not going to surrender because AI is going to be writing most of the books next year. I'm going to use AI today to write the best book of my life today, right? And I think that intention is what I want you to do, is to say, I will use whatever is available to me, and I will create something that's never been created in Tanzania before. Because for the first time ever, I have access to the Ivy League level of knowledge that I didn't have in this country before. Okay? And I can have it in 23 minutes of deep research that will actually push my intelligence forward to the point where I can make a difference.
Right. Okay. Please. We have to stop there. This gentleman speaks with the brilliance of an engineer, the heart of a father, the soul of a seeker. We really, really do appreciate you. Thank you for all the work you've done, and we know there's still a lot more in place if you don't disconnect and go to the mountains somewhere, which is very likely. Yeah. Please, let's give a warm round of applause to Mo. Warm round of applause to all of you for coming, to Mo, to myself. Air Tanzania. No, wait, that's enough. Please.
So you've stolen my thunder. I was asked to give a brief vote of thanks. I met Mo briefly just before we came in, and looking at him, I thought, this guy's wearing the Steve Jobs garb. No. But I think you'll all agree that what we've heard today has really been a masterclass in terms of someone understanding their topic, bringing it to light. Yes, setting out the challenges, but I think also really bringing to life the opportunities, also grounded in how you yourself are using AI. So I think we've seen the challenges, we see the opportunities. Vodacom, as one of the sponsoring entities, clearly there's a big role to play there, because you've talked about the accessibility and the empowerment, right? So at the top, the people at the top sort of controlling a lot, but empowering also at the bottom. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. Mo, you said one of the most friendly people you met.
The friendliest people ever, yeah.
So, having had that welcome, I hear you're off to the airport, but I'm sure we'd love to see you here again. But in the meantime, a big hand once again for Mo.
Thank you.
I would also like to recognize the contribution of UNDP, who have co-sponsored this forum. So a big hand for UNDP. And then last but not least, the audience. I think I actually saw you visibly shocked by the quality of the questions.
Questions are amazing, yeah.
You got more than you bargained for.
A bit too many, a little too much, yeah.
So big hand from you for yourselves as the audience. And with that, well, I didn't thank the presenter, but I think you thanked yourself.
Oh.
We gave him one clap.
Just in case, one clap.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
All right, back to you.
Amazing, thank you so much.
We really, really do appreciate it. And thanks again. I know there's some things the board has to discuss about what practicality looks like of implementation of some of the things. No pressure, David. No pressure at all. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.